So, 1.19, some people say it's a disappointment. Some people say it's mediocre. And the new chat moderation features, a lot of people say is even worse. So, let's actually take a look and head back to the release of 1.8.9, around that time when Minecraft was acquired by Microsoft. Notch left the game development studio a billionaire, and now Minecraft was in the hands of Jeb and mainly Microsoft, because they were the ones who are now providing the funding to the game studio. Mojang, the name Mojang was now just a division within the main company of Microsoft, and it was no more an independent game studio. It was now integrated to the main company, like Bethesda, a couple of years ago, or was it a couple of months ago? I forgot. Anyways, that's not important. So, Java players, they were not forced to go by the Microsoft TOS, and everything was fine. There was no banning. There was bigger updates like the combat update, and eventually stuff like the 1.14 update, which completely revamped textures and also villages. And what else was there? There was 1.16 with the Nether, 1.15 with the bees. I know I'm not saying this in order, but there was a lot of really big updates. And aside from the small minority who were whining about every single little detail, other than just like posting feedback to like feedback forums and that type of stuff, overall the community actually pretty liked the updates. And then came the migration. Microsoft decided to tempt people with Mojang accounts and not Microsoft accounts into migrating to Microsoft accounts. Microsoft accounts were subject to the TOS and community guidelines set by Microsoft for Xbox games and everything that was within the... oh, what's happening here? Okay, everything that was within range of the of Microsoft. Oh, this is weird. My commands just kind of went bonkers. Okay, never mind. Well, Microsoft's games, like games for Xbox and that type of stuff, that was subject to Microsoft's community guidelines and Microsoft's TOS. Now, Java Minecraft was not subject to all of this, because they weren't using Microsoft accounts, they were using Mojang accounts. And overall, it seemed to be fine. Until now. So, when you migrate, a lot of people did not want to migrate. A lot of people migrated, but a lot of people didn't want to, and that was totally fine until Microsoft said that if you don't migrate, you can't play the game. So it started with giving us a free cake by migrating, and then ended with pretty much forcing us to migrate. But that's not the main point here. After migrating, we're now subject to the Microsoft TOS, even though we have a pretty cool cape. Main point is, we are now subject to the Microsoft TOS, and also, main thing is the conditions set by Microsoft, like all of the stuff that Microsoft wants Mojang and Minecraft to do, we have to do, they have to do. They have to add it to the game. So I think this was a feature that was told by Microsoft to Mojang, to the developers of Mojang to add. But that's not the main point. The main point is, now we're subject to Microsoft TOS, and people didn't notice it. We were pretty much bribed into migrating our accounts, and yeah, fast forward. Let's actually go back to the main 1.19 release and why that was bad. But just keep in mind, we are now subject to the Microsoft TOS and community guidelines that will come into play later. So, back in 2021, in Minecon Live, Mojang announced a new update, the Wild update. The way they communicated it was that they were going to announce a couple of features, and in the end, the Minecraft overworld wilderness was going to be much more interesting to, well, explore, discover, and overall it would just be much better. There would be better atmospherics. It would feel much more immersive, about as far as a block game could take it. And that was really cool. They showed off a new swamp biome, which the players have been requesting for quite a while now. They showed off, I think, the Deep Dark and the Warden and the new ancient cities, the reason why they delayed the Deep Dark so much. And overall, it was a pretty good update. But they communicated it as it was going to add a lot more stuff. It was going to add a lot of ambience. And that brings us to our first target, the Fireflies. They were removed before they were actually announced. Well, not announced. Before they were actually added in a snapshot or anything. They even had the tags and the backbones ready for them. But they were removed because, you know, they said, oh, okay, Fireflies, they're toxic to frogs. Let's remove them. Because now that the frogs don't eat them for frog lights, they have no other use. Then tell me, what's the use of bats? Bats just squeak and make noise and practically nothing else. They drop literally 2 EXP when you kill them, so they are also not a viable source of, you know, experience points. They are not a viable source for anything other than ambience. They add ambience to the caves, and that's pretty much it. Now, if we went by what the developers said about the Fireflies, they are useless. Even though they add ambience, they don't have a use for them, so we're removing them until we can find a use for them. You know, why keep the bat? I mean, it's technically useless according to your own definition. So, that's the Firefly. I hope that it gets updated, added, not updated, because it was never added. I hope it gets added in a future update, but for now it's gone, and yeah, that was that. Took a couple of months, but the players were happy at the final release. Well, at least the final release was fine, I guess. But they said that they were going to add a lot more ambience. Whoops. Oh no. They said that they were going to add a lot more ambience, and they removed one of the only sources of ambience for the mangrove swamp. Okay, second thing. Birch forests and the commitment to concept arts. So, at Minecon Live 2021, you know the drill, they show concept art for stuff that they want to add. They showed concept arts for the mangroves, they added the stuff in the concept arts, except for the Fireflies, of course. And they showed concept arts for the Deep Dark City, they added it. Artistic freedom is fine. It's actually pretty good in concept arts. It makes the developers, the developers will see what the artists have envisioned for the game and try to, you know, make it. So, artistic freedom is good, but making a whole concept art for a whole biome and saying that you weren't committed to it or a concept art isn't a commitment is just a little bit too far. Because you made a whole concept art for a whole biome, even though you might have added some features like hollow logs, which those are, of course, artistic freedom. Some features could have been added. The birch forest doesn't even really need a revamp, it already has the base biome, it just needs those little touches to add to it. Same thing with the Fireflies. The mangroves were already pretty good, but if we kept the Fireflies purely for aesthetic purposes, then it would have been even better, because we can actually see, like, you know, it just adds a little bit more atmosphere to the mangrove swamps. Seeing Fireflies float around in mangrove swamps at night, that would have been a really cool experience. But got removed. I already covered that. So let's continue. Concept art, I think, is a commitment to some extent. You know, you don't have to add every single feature that was present in the concept art. That's artistic freedom. You can add some little flourishes or some little details, but overall, if you make concept art for an update and you don't actually add the update, that would not be very ideal, because you dedicated time and effort and money because you had to pay the artist to make the concept arts. So it would have been much better to at least add some base features for the birch forest. I know there's going to be some people in the community who will whine about the birch forest not having enough features, but an updated birch forest is much better than a birch forest that remains the same, right? It's the wild update. We need some more features, some more ambience, some more, make the biomes that were supposed to be updated just a little bit more atmospheric, right? Alright, so those are the main two features that people were highlighting about in when they had arguments to why the WoW update was bad. Whoops. Anyways, now that's that. People pretty much got over it. They got used to it. They like the wild update. Some people like the wild update. Some people just got used to it and continued playing with the new features. But it pretty much was not that good of a presentation to the community, and it was kind of like a bad taste left in our mouths, or at least some people's mouths in the community. But now we move on to the 1.19.1 spectacle, or what some people like to say, a horrendous feature. 1.19.1, it's supposed to add a brand new feature, chat moderation. In theory, this is good. This is really good because it helps keep the community a safe place. Now, people who are sending death threats to other people, that's not cool, right? You don't want them in a community that's meant for all ages and all people, no matter where they are. We want this to be a good community with people who are not toxic. So that's a good point. That's a good point for the people who like the new chat moderation feature. But the thing is, Minecraft is very, very diverse. What you send as a death threat could actually just mean in-game. Like if you're playing a game of Skywars and you're trying to threaten the other player like some sort of noob or something, and you're telling them the same thing, like a death threat, pretty much. Where are you, so I can, well, let's just say, remove all of your HP, forcibly. You get my point, but, things that sound like, death threats could easily be taken out of context. They could be reported, and boom, false spam, even though you weren't referring to real-life death threats, and you were just talking about in-game threats and just being toxic in the game. I mean, being toxic is bad, but it's not warranted. It's not, you shouldn't be banned from the whole of multiplayer just for, well, being toxic. Being toxic repeatedly is bad, but that's up to the server to see whether they want to ban those people or not. Because different servers, they have different moderators have different rules, and overall it should be kept up to the server owners to ban people who are being toxic, or not ban people who are being toxic. But anyways, I'm rambling right now, but overall, this should be kept to, like, this isn't really a very good idea, because there's a lot of things to do in Minecraft. There's a lot of areas where, people can be playing. Like, for example, a single-player survival world. And that brings us to Bedrock chat moderation. Bedrock chat moderation is historically really, really bad. It's been here since, I think, for at least a couple of years, and A lot of people have complained about it. False bans, banning them from the entirety of the game. They can't even access their own single-player world because they said something bad, or maybe they didn't even say something bad and they were just false banned by the quote-unquote specialist moderators at Microsoft. Now, I don't know where you would get those specialist moderators from if they can't even read, because false bans usually are like saying something that some people might consider, I don't know, they might just report it for trolling. They are just trolling around with other people. They report somebody's text, and then it gets them banned from the entire game, even single player. Which is, I think that is not good, because getting banned from single player is pretty much getting access restricted to something that you paid $30 for. You shouldn't be banned in single player. Banning in multiplayer is at least kind of okay, but getting banned from single player entirely, that's a whole nother level. So that's one of the complaints with Bedrock. Now, when this was announced, Java players were fearing for this, and fortunately, we aren't going to be banned from single player, because who would want to be banned from single player for saying something bad? Or maybe not even saying something bad, or just a false ban, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much my point of view on Bedrock chat moderation. But now we move on to Java and the overall chat moderation scheme. So, Minecraft is about a lot of things. There's a survival mode, hardcore mode, creative mode. You can build stuff, you can practice your architecture skills. There are servers like the one that I'm playing on. This is Hypixel Skyblock for anybody who does not know. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's places like 2b2t where saying anything and doing anything. You can say anything, you can do anything, you can hack, you can cheat, you can say very unfriendly words, and overall pretty well, it's just anarchy. You can do anything. Now, context matters when reporting, because what if someone says something bad and gets banned from the entire multiplayer scheme? They say something or do something that they would not do on like normal servers, and they're just showing an example of how bad the community in 2b2t is, or I don't know. That's just some random example I just came up with in 5 seconds ago. But one major example is like when somebody is playing on a private server, they're discussing something that is in the gray area, or maybe somebody who's playing competitive game, like I said earlier, they say something that's in the gray area, requires context. Context is something that really matters, even though Microsoft and Mojang, they say that they will, you know, take into account of the situation, or the context. They might not know the entire story. They might have the chat logs, but they might not know the entire story. It might be some sort of inside joke by some people, but I know this is overthinking. But it also depends on the server. What if, like, they only get the chat logs, but not also not the server that it's from? Even if they do get the server that it's from, what if, like, they can't distinguish a death threat in build battle from a quote-unquote death threat in, like, Skywars? Okay, I kind of got distracted there because I was battling, Star Sentry, but you get my point. You can't really distinguish it because some servers, they have multiple minigames, and context really matters, especially the ones that you can't normally get unless you are present at the situation. So, that's the first point. And the second point is, that's being made by a lot of people, is privacy concerns. Now, why would privacy concerns be used in this scenario? The thing is, they have access to all your chat logs, not just ones that are made in the server. Everything that you send, even the stuff that you put on signs in your single player world or books, they have access to, and they've shown that they have access to it. Like, for example, if you write something on a sign in your single-player world, it's not meant to be viewed by others, right? You wrote it on a sign in your single-player world for a reason. But Microsoft, they can see it, and oops, we got to switch to pickaxe, and they are able to moderate it. Like, they can still censor words, which is fine, but they can still see it. That's the main point. They can see your chat logs from private servers, and also from like private worlds, single player worlds. Chat logs and single player worlds, yeah, that doesn't matter, but what you write in signs and books, that might matter, because it might be something personal. You might want to vent something that you wouldn't tell to anybody else. So that might be a privacy concern. Also, topics that are being discussed in private servers, some people discuss like a bit personal topics because, you know, it's in a privacy server. It's in a private server, not a privacy server. What's a privacy server? Anyways, they're discussing it in a private server instead of like Hypixel public lobby or something for a reason. It's because they want it to be private. And now Microsoft is getting access to all of our chat logs, so that does make the privacy situation a bit complicated. And if they are discussing something private and something in the gray area, you can think of scenarios. I don't think I should say scenarios of this, but if they're discussing something like this, context really matters. And also privacy really matters, because if you're discussing this on like a public server like Hypixel, then sure, okay, keep the chat logs. But if you're discussing this on a private server, there's a reason why you're discussing this on a private server. It's private. That's the main point. So yeah, privacy concerns, false bans. Oh, I forgot to cover false bans. Wait, did I cover false bans? I think I covered false bans, yeah. Privacy concerns, false bans, single player banning in Bedrock only, fortunately, and also, the whole bad communication with 1.19 is overall what led to, I guess, the downfall of 1.19. A lot of people still like 1.19. I like 1.19, the features are really good. Whoops. The features are really good, and even if they didn't go up to promises, I guess, the stuff that they added, Ancient Cities, which is the biggest structure in the game, it is still really good, I'm not gonna lie. So, I think this was a complicated, well, not complicated, an in-depth analysis of pretty much why people did not like 1.19. Let's move on to how Mojang could improve it. Or perhaps, how they could have made 1.19 have a better reception. Let's start off with the base 1.19, where people did not want, well, people did not like it. People didn't like how the game was presented. People didn't like the updates. People didn't like a lot of stuff. So I think one of the things that they could have done better is just presenting the update the way that it's going to be released. They'll say what they have planned and actually dedicate to it, instead of saying it but then saying that it's not something that they are like dedicated to, or not a commitment. Like, for example, the concept arts of the birch forest and the Fireflies. And that's pretty much all for 1.19. Now for 1.19.1, the chat moderation features. They could be done much, much, much better. So, first off, chat moderation should not be dealt with by Microsoft, and it should not ban you from multiplayer entirely. This just affects the people who actually want to play the game more than the people who, well, Microsoft is trying to target against. So, false bans are the main problem, and the people who are, like, being genuinely toxic instead of, like, false bans and that type of stuff, the people who are not being toxic, they usually are the ones who are most affected, because like they might be discussing something in a gray zone, they might be discussing something that might require a lot of context, and something that the moderators don't know to know actually about the topic, and to not get banned. So they are getting banned because of bad context, and also because of the lack of stuff, the lack of resources the moderators have. So instead of leaving this to like a team of moderators, or I guess a script that they wrote to detect strings, or that's a programming thing. It's a line of characters, but to detect like lines of characters or things that people say in chat or type out in books and that type of stuff, instead of leaving that to quote-unquote Microsoft moderators or a script to do the moderation, I think it should be like toggleable between servers, and allow for server owners and admins to moderate their server using a set of handy tools for their server. And being banned from one server doesn't ban you from the entire Minecraft multiplayer. It just bans you from that server. This would have been much more well received within the community, because it's individual for the servers. It helps the servers, it helps the admins, and now there's a full built-in set of tools for server admins and server owners for them to actually manage the server that they have. So that would have been received much better. And also, opt-in, opt-out, you know, that's pretty basic. Being able to opt in with what you want Minecraft moderators to see, or being able to opt in by server or by world, to be able to know what the moderators are able to see and what they aren't. That would have been better than just taking all your chat logs and all of your typing logs and all of that, and taking that and sending it through Microsoft databases. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This does not represent everybody, of course, but I tried to compile all of the Minecraft community's opinions, well, the opinions in general, and also my own opinions, and try to put it together to a kind of useful video, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I really hope that the chat moderation feature gets the love that it deserves, instead of just a kind of bad implementation of it, which not many people like. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.